joining us, and welcome to today's Ranger Show, the next half an hour of our safari fix. Always look forward to seeing what we get to see on the cameras. Also, always interested to see if there's any questions. Lovely to interact with everybody. There's been some really interesting stuff over the weekend. I don't know if anyone got the time to have a quick look at either the live cams or seen some of the highlights, but we've collected one or two of the highlights. Looks like there were lots of leopard activity on various cameras. Really great brown hyena sighting. So the weekend looked to be quite productive. We've started off here with a wonderful herd of zebra, as well as the wildebeest taking it really easy, letting the zebras do the hard job, keeping a good lookout for them. It's actually one of the reasons why they often hang out together. The more eyes and ears, the better. Zebra and wildebeest love to be with each other. At this case, I think the zebras are doing more of a favor for the wildebeest than the other way around. And everyone looking in great condition, shiny coats. It has been really cold lately. I think in some places they recorded -3. So there's been frost in some of these parts in the early morning, but it warms up to a beautiful 20 odd degrees. So not a bad winter's day. Doesn't look like much wind out there today, keeping the animals nice and relaxed. So we had on the weekend, there was a bit of a bird quiz. Max, I wonder if we can put that video of that bird up again. I just want to go through it now for any of you birders out there. Suki, I'm not sure if you're with us today, but take a look at this beautiful wader. It was out on Facebook and social media and YouTube. Some people came in with an identification. So my question to you is, what bird is that? I know it's a tricky one. It's definitely the higher grade department of birding. I think the waders are right up there with the cisticulars and warblers. But if anyone has an idea of what bird this might be, we did get some answers over the weekend, and we'll go through what those answers were. Just have a good look at this bird. We'll go back to the live cams again, and then I want to go through some of the great highlights. But here, just going to replay it again for any birders out there. Got someone viewing from Minnesota. Good day to you. I'm not sure who you are. If your names don't pop up on the question list, so if you can put your name on there, that'll be great. Pat from Florida, how are you doing, Pat? Stephanie, you're with us again from the east coast of the USA. Fantastic. It's always really cool to have people from all over the world tuning in. How are you guys at birds? Let's see. If anyone does know what bird this is, what wader it is, just put your answer in the question box. And we'll see how we go towards the end of the show. Thanks, Maxi. I think let's go back across to some of the live cams. I wanted to go across to olifants quickly. Max, I want to just see if there's any bird sounds. It's often a great camera for birding, and as we on a bit of a birding program, like I say, Suki, I'm not sure if you're with us. Sometimes you pop in a bit later, but there has been some interest in birds. Has been quite quiet. The summer months are generally better for birding. just wanted to have a listen out here. And while we're listening out, I don't know if anyone has watched the cameras this weekend. Maria, thanks very much. I'm not sure if anyone has any highlights that they picked up on this weekend that they really liked and have any questions. Pat, maybe you do. Maria, Stephanie, let me know if you have any questions of something you've seen on the cameras, or maybe some of the highlights or the snapshots. Always wonderful, wonderful things to learn. There's a bird sound. It was half of a call of a grey lory, or the go-away bird. They always seem to be quite vocal throughout the year. Looking quite green, quite brown, sorry, green on the edges. The grass is looking a bit brown on the edges. I'm sure it'll make it through to November, December when the rains come again. Ooh, we've got some answers coming in here. If you can put your name next to your answer, then I can see who's answering. Okay, DJ Sporting, I got your answer here. Thanks very much. Let me write them all down because it seems like there's a lot going on here. Yeah, I must say, although there's some spur fowls calling in the background there. Sounds like crested franklin or spur fowl. Very typical along the river. I just want to let the camera go across to the path, and then I think what we'll do, Max, let's go to that highlight of the leopard that had a good old nap on this path right here over the weekend. This is the Olifants River game path. Lots of things coming by here. We've seen elephants, lions, and this weekend was no different. It was a beautiful male leopard that spent a fair amount of time. There doesn't seem to be anything else out there. No crocs on the sandbanks either. Wow, Stephanie, you said you saw 9 lions at Nkora. Yes, I believe they killed a buffalo in that area. I think it actually the total pride number is 12 in that area, so definitely keep watching. I think on Thursday we'll go through a bit of a recap. We're just trying to find out a bit more about how many are in that pride. But yeah, like I say, this weekend has definitely been pretty productive as far as the predators are concerned. It is actually a great time of year for predators visiting, and in fact any other animal, but in particular predators visiting the waterholes. A great place not only to drink, of course, but also to set ambushes and hunt. It's also a great place to meet up with others. We'll go through another highlight video a bit later from Nkora Pan, Naledi Pan, sorry, where a leopard spent a lot of time calling and moving between Cat-Eye and Naledi, and I think it was trying to find its buddies around the waterhole, so quite interesting times indeed. Okay, so let's go across to one of the highlights that was taken here at River Cam on the weekend. There we see a beautiful, biggish male leopard. He hasn't got a huge dewlap, but he's just having a full-on cat nap. Exactly how long he actually spent there, I'm not so sure, but he certainly is very comfortable there, right in the middle of the path. He does get up in the next clip, and we'll have a look at that, and you'll see his stomach's quite full. So he's had a meal recently, and those of you that have cats of your own, or mind you, I don't feel much different when I've had a big meal and have a good nap. But what's interesting is that he feels quite comfortable in a nice big open space like that. And quite rightly so. He can defend himself against quite a lot, obviously not big prides of lions, but there's some nice trees right next to him. He can climb up if anything comes along in terms of competitors. But in the next clip, we'll see he gets up and he moves around and actually gives us a great call. This particular male leopard has a notch, what looks like a gap in his left ear. A little nick in the ear is one way to try and tell them apart. So if we do get to see them on other occasions, you've got to look out for that. It's not that clear. There's a little black patch on the left-hand side of his ear. So let's go across to where he wakes up, Max. So it's the same leopard who gets up a little while later. And let's listen out. Let's see if we can get the volume up there. You see he's looking around. Beautiful big male. Look at his stomach. It's quite full. He climbs right up in line with the camera. Long, beautiful tail. And let's have a listen. Somewhere around here, he gives a little call. There we go. Not a very loud call and not a very long call. Quite interesting. So he's not the big, there is a big male that walks by here, and I really only know that he's a bigger male because he's got a bigger dewlap, that flap of skin that hangs down the throat. But there you can see it's not so clear on a big male. You know, that's a big indicator that he's a dominant male. So you might find that this is a younger male and not that interested just yet to try and take over territory. You know, he doesn't want to be too loud. He may attract the bigger fellow, and that, of course, brings in the potential conflict and battle. We spoke about the lion dynamics going on around the Tau area. But it can also happen, of course, with leopards, highly territorial, both male and female, but the males are much readier to take on each other. The females get to be quite relaxed. So that was just a subtle call, but really nice to see. And we get to see wonderful leopard sightings on these cameras. Again, leopard, there's quite a few of them around. They're not really an endangered species as such, but they're very shy. They're very untrusting. In fact, I worked in an area on the northeast coast of South Africa where for 10 years we didn't think we had many leopards. We saw one or two tracks. And when we started doing a research project, essentially trying to catch them and collar them, we landed up with 22 different leopards within a 2-year period, which caught everyone by surprise. So being behind the cameras and not disturbing the environment that they walk through definitely gives us a good opportunity to see them. So Max, I wonder if we can just go across to Naledi Dam on the live cam. Just want to see if there's anything else out there. I think it was at Naledi where there was a wonderful leopard sighting again. And now Cat's Eye Pan is not too far away from Naledi, from the camera angle that we're looking at right now. It's to the right of our view, and probably, I would say, maybe 800, maybe a kilometer to the right. It's essentially quite close. Sometimes we've actually seen elephants drinking at one and walking across to the other. So There's not much going on here right now, but let's go across to the highlight of also a young male leopard that came down for a drink, just offering up a really beautiful view. He was also seen at Cat-Eye Pan, and a little later on in the clip, we'll see that this particular leopard has a very particular spot pattern. Now, the spot pattern is found just to the right of the nostrils and above the whisker line. And I'll show you that when we get to the point. But this youngster's been moving around, also calling, so we'll hear that a bit later. And one thing that's quite interesting is just in front of its main call, there's just a little call that sounds a little different. And to me, that's a contact call. And I don't know if you remember, I think it was probably about maybe 3 weeks ago, possibly a month ago. There were two youngsters, two young leopards around about this age, about 2 years of age, were walking together, and I suspect they could be siblings. And now that the female is maybe moved off, because that's when they move off to become solitary, maybe this youngster's feeling a little lonely, looking for his sibling. But again, like I say, what an absolute privilege to be able to see these undisturbed views of these incredible predators. Listen to it drinking. Just walking past the camera, not a care in the world. Now have a listen here. There's a very subtle call. I don't know if you heard that, just a little. And that's the contact call that I was talking about. It's quite subtle. It's definitely something to be aware of, something different. Now, Max, I'm not sure if there's another clip where we can actually see the face of that leopard, where we saw the spot pattern. Just while we're on the highlights, we'll come back to these live cameras. And Pat, I see you've got a very interesting question. I'll get back to that. I'm not sure if this is the clip, but let's see if the camera zooms right into the face. There was one view where we could see the little black spots on either side of the nostril. Yes, Max, the next clip, I think there, you can just see it there. Just on the left-hand side, above the whisker line, there's one spot. And now as he turns, there's the second one. Not very clear. It doesn't take, it's a quick movement. But that's one of the easiest ways to tell leopards apart. And it's something we should all look out for. And if you do see it, you take a snapshot. And that way we can work out if it's the same leopard spending time at the waterhole. There's another clear view. Calling again. There we go, perfect. See the spot on the left and the right? So this is a young male leopard. And if we were to research him, it's very typical to, some people will give them normal names, John or Harry. Some researchers just give them numbers. But whenever I've done any monitoring with leopards in particular, you call them by their spot pattern, and in this case, 1-1. Pretty straightforward, but every leopard will have a different spot pattern above the whisker mark, and then they also have a very different necklace pattern. But that's something for everyone to look out for. Here we have a yellow-billed stork on the live cameras now. giving itself a wonderful preen. Always good to keep feathers in great condition. You never know when you need to fly away. How you doing, Marcel? Nice to have you on the show. So, Pat, you're asking essentially why kills don't happen right at the water's edge more often. And it's a great question because one would think that that would be the best place for a predator to be successful. But typically, what happens is if, let's just say, lions are lying in ambush, talking about predators and beautiful crocodiles at Tau. But if lions, let's go to Tembe, for example, they often will lie up on the woodland edge. That gives the predator a nice big open space to see what's coming down to the water. Of course, if something walks straight past them coming out of the woodland, that would be a good place to attack. But typically what happens is the predators will watch animals going down for a drink. You see, if we take Tau, for example, here, it's really quite a huge open space to stalk up to something and then have to run after it. Ideally, you want to be as close to your prey as you possibly can be. So typically what happens is predators will watch animals coming down to drink from the woodland edge, or in this case, the acacia edge, and then they'll start to watch them come back. But as they start coming back, they would have put themselves into a position of ambush, if that makes sense, and then let the animal walk up to them, and that's the easy way. So if one had to walk around these water holes, you may not see too many bones and things and remnants right in these open spaces, but I bet you if we took a stroll through that woodland, that acacia woodland in the back here, Tau, or the thick forest around Tembe, we'd see a lot of bones and remnants of kills, and that's where the action happens. And that's what happened now around in Korapan, I believe, those lions that killed a buffalo just on the edge of the woodland. So I hope that answers your question. But having said all of that, sometimes you might find that a lion's already drinking, realizes something's coming up behind it. And if there's a position like at Tembe, there, those depressions, those little holes, and if they can get themselves into position and lie in waiting, they might catch them. And of course, it's area dependent. If you go to the Etosha Pan in Namibia, for example, those lions have found out ways to hunt in those open areas pretty successfully. But generally speaking, it's the woodlands where the action happens. But great question. Thanks so much. So talking about questions, there were some answers to the birding question. There'd been nice birds, by the way, while I was answering that question. There's some guinea fowl in the foreground. Here there was what looked like a red-knobbed coot at Tau. Some good waders out. Well, as these wildebeest, a whole lot more active than the ones we saw in Kora. But so we have some answers to the birding question in the beginning. So someone says it's a green shank. Okay. Someone says it's a curlew. Got curlew as an answer. We also had quite a few answers as marsh sandpiper. I don't know if there's anyone else out there that wants to have a go. Oh, I've only just seen the elephants in the background behind the wildebeest. Lots of things going on. Okay, so the bird that we had a look at in the beginning, I wonder if we can go to a picture of the actual bird, Max, or that video. Now, like I said, The waders are really, yes, that one, Max, that'll be great. So this is a nice still shot of that bird coming up. And in this case, the bird is a green shank. So those of you that guessed green shank, you would be correct. And one of the birds that a lot of people called out was a marsh sandpiper because they're very similar. And it's quite tricky when you don't have them together, but we do have a picture of a marsh sandpiper. But the green shank, one of the biggest characteristics, one is it's a lot bigger than a lot of the other waders. It also has quite a thick bill, like this picture right here. And that gray-green base of the bill is very characteristic of the green shank. The legs are, of course, greeny in color, but sometimes it's not so clear when other birds may have got algae on them or something like that. But Max, I wonder if we can go to the photograph of the marsh sandpiper. I just want to take a look at the bill, the difference in bill size and general body size. So here Max has got us a wonderful picture of a marsh sandpiper, and you can see it's a smaller bird, not easy if you don't have them right next to each other, but that bill is a lot more pin-shaped, much slenderer. It also has more of a yellow cere or base. So I wonder if we can swap over again, Max. Let's just get a comparison going. We've got Max on the mixing desk here. There we go. Look at that. Thanks, Max. So there we can see that bill is quite different. The head of the green shank's also quite a lot bigger. And then the sandpiper has got yellower legs, so that definitely helps with the greener legs of the green shank. But like I say, the waders are a tricky lot. In fact, birding's not the easiest of things, but that's what does make it quite interesting. Thanks for that, Max. I just want to go back to Tau quickly. There was a beautiful kudu bull that walked in front of the camera. Yeah, there he is. Thanks for your answers, by the way, folks. On the birding front, we're going to try and do more and more birding and birding quizzes. We're going to see if we can get some bird calls together for Thursday's show. Always nice to have participation. Look at that beautiful kudu bull. Always wonderful to see, just in great condition. Quite unusual, that very big beard. You see that hair down the throat? That often looks quite scraggly, but this fellow definitely, I would say, in his prime, strutting across the open space as he should. You see Pat as they're coming down for a drink, very aware. The ears are working backwards, working forwards, listening to the side, having a good look around, and it'll do the same on the way out, because they all do know that waterholes are not the safest place to be. And that, by the way, is the reason why animals don't typically spend all day at the waterholes. Look, Tau is quite unusual. It is a very active place throughout the day, and I think it probably has something to do with the fact that it's such a wide open space, so a lot safer than, say, somewhere like even Naledi Dam. It's quite thick around there. You're better off coming in for a drink and disappearing. Hopefully you make it out alive. Here's another great question from Liz in the UK. So you were watching the lions feeding on the buffalo, and you thought they spend hours and hours feeding on a buffalo. And your question is, how often do they need to kill and eat? Yeah, it's a great question, Liz. So, firstly, something like a buffalo, even though they're 9 lions, is a hell of a meal. It's a big buffalo bull is somewhere in the range of 800 kgs. So, and lions will typically stick around pretty much until that carcass is completely finished. If you take something like cheetah, for example, and if they catch an impala, they'll feed until they're full and then move out the area. So, generally speaking, predators will feed or try and hunt every 2 days. Now that has a lot to do with what do they catch. If that pride of lions catches one warthog in the morning, they'll most likely try and hunt again that evening because that just doesn't get very far. But if, for example, and as you observed, those lions were feeding on that buffalo for a while. In fact, I think they were there for 3 or 4 days. They'll then take a day or two to digest and then go looking for another opportunity. So in that case, maybe that would have lasted them a week. So it really does depend on what they're eating and how many mouths are being fed. But on average, it's pretty well understood that every 2 days they'll give it a go. Something like a cheetah is definitely more regular, easier to watch, and leopard much the same. Thanks, Marcel, for getting back to me on that electric vehicle that they made in South Africa. Yeah, again, classic concept, that electric vehicle. We spoke about electric vehicles last week, those that weren't on the show. And but thanks very much, Marcel, for getting back to me with that one. Ah, folks, looks like we've come to the end of the show. There's a gray heron saying goodbye. He needs to do a bit of preening on that right-hand feather there. But thanks so much for joining me for the show today. And thank you so much for your involvement, all your questions, great answers on the bird identification. And we'll keep that going. Let's see throughout the shows. It's always nice to have a bit of a test here and there. Folks, I hope you have a great day further. Keep watching the cams, and I really look forward to catching up with you on Thursday again.